Hey there friends, today I'm going to show you how to do something relatively simple that'll save you a lot of money. I'm going to show you how to replace the shock and strut assembly on a 2013 Hyundai Elantra. GoPro, stop recording. So I went ahead and I got myself ordered offline a new shock and strut assembly. You can see it came all ready to go into the car. And now, had I wanted to, I could replace each individual component of this on its own, but to do that, I would require a special spring compression tool. I do not have that. I don't really want to get it. And also I wanted to save a little bit of time by just buying the ready-to-go piece that's just plug and play. So, taking a look at this piece of equipment here, you can see that we have 3 nuts on top. We have a spot for 2 bolts to go through at the bottom, and we have some various areas on here for clips that will attach the brake hose, the ABS brake, and so on. And a special note, right here on the top, there is a warning that says that this spring is under compression and that you are not to remove a nut that's located here in the middle, okay? If you do that without the spring compression tool, you can cause very serious injury to yourself, all right? So, big no-no, keep that on there. And also, just so you're aware, when you're putting this into the car, I'll show you later, this top piece here will swivel, okay? It's supposed to do that. It'll help you line it up inside of the car. All right, so I got my car's hood open here so that way you can see some of the preliminary steps that we're gonna have to do here in order to replace our shock and strut assembly. So, inside of the car here, you can see right up in here, this is where the top is going to be, those 3 bolts that, or those 3 nuts, sorry, that I showed you. They're gonna have to come out in here. Go. Alright, so for the 2013 Hyundai Elantra, the shock and strut assembly is going to be a little different to access. So as I showed you before, it was covered up where the top nuts and bolts would go through. So I'm showing you here on a different car. This is a 2015 Toyota RAV4. Right up here you can see I've got my 3 nuts at the top here where the top of the shock and strut assembly goes. Okay, this is what it might look like on other cars, but the 2013 has the cover on top there, so I'm going to show you how to get access to that. Alright, so now that we're back to the Elantra, the very first step that you have to do in order to be able to gain access to the top of the shock and struts here is you're going to have to pop out a cover here, and you're going to have to go ahead and remove a nut that's holding on your windshield wipers. So it's real easy. I'm able to get mine with my fingers. If you need, you could use a small screwdriver, whatever you got to do, get that out of there. You pop that open, and you expose a nut here and a nut here. Now, to get that off, all you need is a ratchet with a 14mm socket attachment. Or if you don't have metric, I did find that a 9/16 will work just as well. All right, all you're gonna do, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna pop that onto the nut. And it's a little tight, but there it is, it broke free pretty easy. And I can actually just twist it by hand at that point. Hardly even need the ratchet. But you go ahead, you remove that nut, and I'm gonna go ahead and place it right up here, just that way I don't lose it. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the other one. Once again, crack free, and then it can spin really easy by hand. Back, just see if I can get it there. Good, and again, place it so I don't lose it. And then I can just go ahead and remove my windshield wiper. Alright, and I had to go ahead and close the hood. And what you're going to do is after the nuts have been removed from here and from here, you just fold up your windshield wiper and it comes right off. And you're just going to go ahead and do that with both sides. Back up, came right off. And I'm just going to go ahead and set it aside. Now that I have both windshield wipers out of the way, I'm ready to take off this plastic piece right here, which is connected all the way through here, covers the top 3 nuts that I need, goes all the way to the other side, same thing. Now the way that this is held on is there's a little piece right here that needs to pop out. There's one on the opposite side as well, just again right here. Okay, and then you can see it from the top here, there's another one and one right there as well. And so all you're gonna do to get that up, you're just gonna need to grab a screwdriver or a little pick or something, and you're just gonna go ahead and get underneath there, and you're gonna go ahead and see if you can pop that out real easy. All right, if you break it, you can get a replacement online at an auto parts store. It's real easy. Sometimes they do break. And just real easy. Going around and just try to pop. Oh. Okay, just get on underneath. Go ahead, nice and easy wiggle. Trying to pop that up. Go. There we go, pops right out. Okay, as you can see, you're going back in, it just pops in, and then you push down on this little middle piece here, it clips it right on in. That's how it's gonna hold on. All right, so after you get all those clips off, you can see that this will come loose from the windshield here, and it'll start to be ready to lift off, okay? But first, you wanna pay attention over here, coming from your windshield washer reservoir, you have a little hose that comes up that runs to this piece, okay? It's held on by a clip right here, and then right here, this is where the hoses connect, all right? So what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to get this popped up, and then you're gonna have to separate the hose here, okay? Okay, once again, just using a screwdriver here. Just gonna slowly work this out. All right, trying real hard not to break it. And there we go. Okay, great. We're taking it out. And you can see, it just has a little piece that pops in there, holds onto the hose. So now my hose is loose, and all I gotta do is just give it a little twist, just counterclockwise. That'll free it up pretty easily. And you just gently work it back and forth, taking it off, and there we go. Got it nice and separated. And now this plastic piece is free to be removed from the car. Okay, so now that I have my windshield wipers and the nuts off, I have all of my clips removed. This piece will pop free. Just a little bit of love. Just watch out here, I got it connected on to where the black wire comes from my battery. So just gonna go ahead and reposition it. Okay, pop that off. And over here onto the other side. This will pop off as well. Just like doing that, it makes it a little bit easier. And then this piece will lift free and come off of the car. All right, so now that that plastic piece has been removed, you can see here at the top, just like the other car that I showed you, you can see the top to the shock and strut assembly with 1, 2, 3 nuts right there. Go to the other side, and the same thing. 1, 2, 3. All right, so now what we need to do in order to gain access to the shock and strut assembly, we have to go ahead and get this tire off. All right, so what we're gonna do is on this one, you can see I got a cover right here. If you got one, you just need the screwdriver. Comes right in, you just pry off the cover, and that'll give you access to all of your lug nuts here. If your wheel is different, that's fine. As long as you can get access to these, that's all you need. So with the vehicle still on the ground, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to break all of these loose. All right, so it's a 21 millimeter. And I'm going to go ahead and just break them loose while the weight of the car is still on the ground. All right. Alright, so now those are broken up, and I'm just going to loosen them up a little bit more, but make sure that you leave them on the car until the car is in the air. Alright, that way it will prevent the wheel from falling off, possibly landing on you, maybe causing some damage, who knows. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to jack the car up. So the wheel is off the ground. Okay, you can see we have some clearance. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use a jack stand to make sure that we're safely supporting the car. So I'm on the other side of the car now, and I've got the vehicle resting on a jack stand safely. And according to the user manual, what you should do if you're raising your car is, if you got the opportunity, you should block off the wheel on the opposite side of the vehicle. So I'm on the driver's side now. In the back, I have my two chocks. And I'm just going to go ahead and safely make sure that the wheel is secured so the car cannot go forward or backwards. So now that the car is safely secured by chocks on the rear driver's side wheel, as well as a jack stand, I'm going to go ahead and finish removing these lug nuts on my wheel. Now I loosened them up pretty well before I got the car up, so I can do so by hand. Okay, 2, 3, okay, now 4. Alright, make sure to hold that wheel so it doesn't come falling off on you unexpectedly. Alright, if you do run into an issue where your wheel won't come off, it's no problem at all. All you do is you just leave that last lug nut on there, that way your wheel won't fall off. Come on around to the back side and just go ahead and use a pry bar or a hammer or something. Just go ahead and break the wheel loose. I have been on here pretty recently, so the wheel's going to go ahead and come off. So, safely remove the wheel and go ahead and just wheel it on out of the way. You can also see on here too, I had used a little bit of never sees, so that way it would be easier the next time I wanted to get on the wheel. So you can go ahead and do that too if you'd like. Alright, so now that I got my wheel off, you can see the shock and strut assembly is in here. So, what I've got are 5 nuts and bolts that need to be removed in order to finish this job. So, on the strut, brake and strut assembly, as I showed you on the new one that I got, right here, this is the bottom where I've got 2 that need to come off. Okay, 1, 2. Right here, this nut is holding the brake line. This one right here is holding my ABS wire. Okay, and then up here, this one is holding my sway bar links. Okay, so these are all going to have to be removed in order to get this out of here. All right. Alright, so now that I've pointed out which nuts and bolts you're going to have to be removing here, what I'm going to go ahead and do, since these are some pretty old parts, these are the original shock and strut assemblies that came on the car, and I happen to live up in the snow belt, so get a lot of salt on the road, so some of these might be pretty well corroded and stuck on the car. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of penetrant spray here, and I'm just going to go around, just give each one a little squirt, and then I'm going to go ahead and let it sit for just 10 minutes or so. So just right on around there, just get each one of them, a little love, a little liquid love to get it off of there. Alright, so now that I've gone ahead and given this a little bit to soak, what I went ahead is, I went in here just a second ago, and I checked, and I was able to break this one loose, as well as this one. Alright, it was really on there pretty tight, guys, and you're probably going to run into that too. So you might have to use a breaker bar, or, I mean, I used a handy little trick. Probably not recommended, but I went ahead and I took my ratchet here, took a big old wrench, and I slid it on over the top, gave me a lot of extra leverage to be able to go down, all right? So I got that, and I got it loose, and you might be lucky enough that by the time you start getting it off here, you see my top nut, it's coming off. What I'm running into at the bottom here is pop my wrench on, and I start going. Now I got it spinning right here on the other side, okay? Now if you remember, I got my new part here, and I've got my nut, and then I told you there's another one right here, all right? This is what's spinning on me. So all I'm gonna do to remedy that on the old part here, and by the way, that's a good reason to look at your new parts so you can get an idea of what you're looking at. I'm just gonna go ahead and take this little clench wrench here, and I'm just gonna pop it right onto here, and then that'll allow me to stop that from spinning while I loosen up here. All right, so now that I went ahead and I got this top nut off and this bottom nut off, all I gotta do is just grab it, and it comes right out. Throw it aside. All right, now that the sway bar link is off here, I can go ahead and I can focus on getting this nut off and this one off as well, okay? And that'll allow me to get these off out of the way. Be careful when you're doing this. Don't do anything to damage the wire. Don't crimp or destroy the brake line, okay? You just want to go ahead and get these off and just kind of have them out of the way, okay? All right, so now we're ready to go ahead and get these two nuts off, okay? So now this is a 12 millimeter. All right, so you're just gonna go ahead and pop it on there. And again, I sprayed it down with some penetrant spray and gave it time to soak and hopefully loosen up. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and break these off, all right? All right, so now that they're loose, let's go ahead and remove them entirely. And pop that off. I can just get by hand now. All right, great. So got this little bolt removed. Sorry about saying nut this whole time. Hope you know what I meant. Anyway, you can see that this is loose, but it is in fact clipped onto your ABS. So make sure that you get them both taken off, okay? And again, be careful not to damage anything. So again, turn it counterclockwise, lefty-loosey. Okay, see if it's loose enough by hand. All right, good. So I got that off. You can see it's got a little washer here as well. All right, don't lose that. And I only saw one of those on the ABS one here. Okay, so you got this. You can just kind of get this off to the side a little bit. Again, don't cause too much tension. You don't want to cause any damage. You just want to be able to make sure that you have access to these two nut and bolt combinations right here. Okay. To break these was I sprayed it with just a little bit more of my penetrant, let it sit just to get it loosened up. I then made sure that this brake line was out of my way, and I went ahead and I took my ratchet and put it on an extender so I could get past the caliper here. And all I did was I put it on here, and then I just very slowly broke them loose, and it's spinning real nice here. And keep an eye on the opposite side here as well, just to see if the bolt that goes on through here is also spinning. It's not in this case. And I can actually go ahead and start spinning this by hand to get it off now. It's real easy. So I'm gonna go ahead, get that off there, set it aside, get this bottom one off. And now I'm not gonna take this one off completely yet. I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it there, and I'm gonna focus on this top part here, okay? You can see this bolt is pretty well on there. All right, just a little tap, tap, tap. Yeah, it's not moving. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is show you how you can get this off, okay? And then we'll focus on the bottom bolt after. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go ahead and take your nut that just came off. You're gonna put it back on here, and you're only going to put it down just enough that it is flush with the bolt. Okay, that's all you want. You want it to just be a flat surface. All right, then wearing safety glasses, you're just gonna go ahead and you're just gonna go give this some nice light wraps in order to loosen up the bolt. And you can see it coming free right now, okay? So it's nice and loose. Just gonna go ahead and open that up. You can see it's popping out right here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take my nut back off. And now this bolt That's still a little stuck on there. There we go. It came, and I just did real loose. Well, so you can see we got a little corrosion here. We're gonna go ahead and clean this up once we get it out. Maybe use a little bit of Never Sees when we pop it back in. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing to the bottom bolt here, but very careful, when this comes out, we're gonna need something to support the rotor. Okay, so I have like a box or just, just anything in general that you can get in here to make sure that this doesn't come falling back, just in case it knocks loose, okay? It might not, but either way, we're gonna have to try to break this assembly off of there. We don't want to allow anything to really move or get out of position. All right, so I went ahead and I got this nut and bolt off. And again, there were two of them. I just had to wrap that bottom one out with a hammer. And you can see I got a nice little plastic shelving unit here, just propping up this rotor and the caliper a little bit, okay? It's just gonna make sure that it doesn't fall forward when I do remove the strut and shock assembly. All right, it doesn't really matter exactly. It just has to be something that's high enough and sturdy enough that it can hold the weight of it to make sure that you don't cause any damage, okay? So now, when you're installing these, they are the same size, so it doesn't matter if you mix them up top or bottom, okay? But as you can see here, I do have quite a bit of corrosion right inside of here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a wire brush. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get that all cleaned up. And then I'm going to put just a little bit of Never Sees on here when I reinstall, making sure that it only lands on this part that's showing the corrosion and not on the threads. Go. So now that I have the bottom taken care of and I have the rotor safely supported, I'm ready to come up here to the top and take off my 3 nuts. This is just a 14 millimeter. I'm just going to go ahead and pop that on there. And they break right free. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just get these loosened up as best as I can. And I'm not gonna take them all the way off yet. All right, I wanna make sure that I leave at least one of them on there. If not, maybe 2 or 3, just ready, just barely hanging on. So that way when I go underneath and I go to remove that shock and strut assembly, it doesn't come falling through and cause any damage or hurt me. All right, so now I went ahead and I got this old shock and strut assembly out. All I did was I grabbed onto here, I jiggled it loose a little bit from the backside, the rotor and caliper there as I showed you, where I removed the nut and bolt combination here. I held on to it, and it was loose and dangling there, and all I did was I reached with my other hand up to the top and removed the already loosened bolt, or the already loosened nuts that I told you about. So now that I got it out, I'm going ahead and I'm comparing it to my new shock and strut assembly. Okay, you can see side by side, they look to be the same length, they have the same components here, they have the same 3 at the top, and it looks like they got the same shape. So there's no reason for me to think that I shouldn't put this on my car right now. It's always good to do a comparison, make sure you really got the right part before you put it on your vehicle, okay? That way you can make a correction without getting too far. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my new shock and strut assembly into the car. So, what I'm going to do is first off, take this new assembly, and I'm going to remove the nuts at the top here, okay? Again, there are 3 of them. Okay, and then the exact opposite of how I took it out. I'm going to put this up into the car, position the holes correctly, and then I'm going to go ahead and reach over the top and put the nuts on. Okay, so I got that up there. By the way, this is designed to only go in a certain way. Okay, so if you got to rotate the top to get it in there, that's fine. So now that I'm holding it in, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slowly put on the nuts at the top of the shock and strut assembly. Okay, and once I got those 3 on there, I now no longer have to support it. it's being held on by those nuts. I can come on back down here and I can reposition in order to get my bolt and nuts back through at the bottom end of the shock and strut assembly. Alright, so I went ahead and I got my new sway bar link on there. So I tightened it up at the bottom and the top. And I'm ready to move on to the next step for my shock and strut assembly. So for this one, now that we got these two in and tightened down, and we got our strut, or we got our sway bar link back on, now we just have these two remaining, okay? We got the ABS and we got the brake line. So I got my little bolt here. Again, remember we got the washer for the ABS one. So I'm just gonna go ahead and line that up. I'm gonna go ahead, get the bolt back in there, get it started. Okay, good. And then before tightening too much, just to allow a little bit of play, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my other bolt here, which apologize, it actually does have a washer on it. And I'm gonna go ahead and get that one started as well. Okay. All right, so once you got these back in here, all you do, just like you did before, you go in with your 12mm, only this time, you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna tighten instead of loosen. So again, just turn clockwise, get it nice and tight down. All right, do that with both of them. And then you'll be all set with reconnecting and you'll be ready to pop your wheel back on and get back on the road. All right, so now that everything has been reassembled and tightened down as needed, you are ready to put your wheel back on and then lower back down the car. All right, so I've got my wheel back on the car now, and I just put on my lug nuts just by hand. And so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around with a 21mm socket and I'm going to tighten them down until it's as tight as I can go with the wheel still in the air, using a star pattern. So I'm gonna start with this one, then I'm gonna move on to this one, then this one, this one, this one, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and repeat, okay? The reason I'm gonna do that is I wanna make sure that the wheel gets drawn onto the car equally all around here, okay? I don't want it to get all cockeyed on me by tightening down this one, then this one, and then I start tightening down here. I think it's tight, but maybe it's not quite. I'm gonna ride weird, gonna cause some bad wear. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten down that star pattern, and then I'm gonna lower down the car. All right, so now that the wheel is on the ground, I have the full weight of the vehicle on the wheel. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and tighten down again in a star pattern, and this time I'm gonna tighten down to the torque specs, okay? If you don't know what those are, you can find them online. All right, now that I got that all nice and tightened up, I'm gonna go ahead and just replace my cap that I took off in the beginning. Okay, great, I got that. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna go ahead and get my ratchet. All right, so now that the car is back down on the ground, I'm gonna come down here, and what I'm gonna do is these three nuts on the top here, I'm gonna use a 15mm, and I'm gonna go ahead and torque it down to the required specs, okay? You can find those online. Or I guess if you're real adventurous like me, I'm just gonna go ahead and just make sure that they're nice and snugged up, okay? I mean, it is recommended that you use the torque spec, but this is good enough for me. Okay, so once you're done and you've got your wheel back on, your car is back on the ground, you should be all set to go. You're gonna go ahead and do the other side now, because anytime that you do something like this, you should really make sure that you're doing both sides so the car drives right. All right, so I just went ahead and finished the other side. I went ahead and replaced a sway bar link as well, and it took me all in all about 1 hour to do. Okay, so now that I've got both shock and strut assemblies replaced, the car is safely back on the ground and everything has been tightened, I'm gonna go ahead and take this plastic cover and place it back right up where I got it from. All right, well, thanks for watching. And hey, if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, click like and subscribe, and go ahead and drop down in the comments and let me know if there's any other repairs that I can help you out with. Thanks.